Yes, welcome back, friends. Hope you're well and good. Sorry about the sound in my videos, in the previous 2 or 3 videos that I did. As you understand, it's, doing so many things, especially if you're a one-man team. But I'll be coming up with a plan and see how I can improve my my production and things of that sort. Anyway, let's go to the topic today. Now, a few days ago, Museveni made reshuffles in the army. Now, me personally, he did not make reshuffles in the army. The only thing that is worth looking at in the reshuffle is where he placed his son. Or whatever we are supposed to be looking at in Museveni's reshuffles, we are supposed to look at people who are part of his deep state. And that is Muhoozi, as well as the first as well as his children, the first family. Those are the chips that we are supposed to be looking at. So if he's changing the cabinet, he's not changing the cabinet. You see, in dictatorships, I think, I don't know. You see, for those of you who have read that book by, is it Demostita, the one who wrote a book about dictatorships and how they work. Now, they talk about an element called interchangeables. So to be a successful dictator, you must be able to shuffle things all the time. Whereby, if you do not shuffle things, people will get comfortable, they will easily become small gods in those particular positions, and they will easily topple you. The reason as to why Museveni shuffles cabinets so rampantly and shuffles the military and the police oftenly, it's not because that he wants service delivery. No. It is because that he doesn't want these people to get comfortable in these positions and later on turn against him. Now, he would like that if and only if you are part of that small circle, that really, really tiny deep state circle, of which we know very well that Muhoozi, the First Lady, and these in-laws are a part of. Now, you should also understand that in dictatorships, to some extent, even in-laws can be especially the son-in-laws and things of that sort, can be left out of some of the issues. Especially if at all there are no plans for them in the future in terms of taking over when the dictator dies. Now, when Museveni made the changes, of course, he got his son and made him the commander of the land forces. Now, that is the document there that shows the changes they made. 14. Wilson Mbadi was appointed the CDF, that is the commander of the defense forces, and he was promoted to general. Peter Eleru, the butcher of Kasese, was appointed the deputy CDF. Now, Muhoozi is third in line. Kainerugaba appointed Commander Land Forces. Sam Okding is appointed the Deputy Commander Land Forces. Even if I stop there, the rest you can read through. These other positions don't matter. Maybe the one I can read about is Peter Chandia has replaced Muhoozi Kainerugaba as the commander of the SFC, as well as Felix Buzisori being his deputy commander of the SFC. Now, SFC is the Special Forces Command. That is Museveni's private army, private militia army that guards him, the most he trusts. Now, UPDF, it is the constitutional legal army of the country. Now, Muhoozi has never been the commander of the land forces. This is his first, one of the highest deployments legally in terms of being the land forces commander. I might be wrong, but I don't remember him being a commander of the land forces. Because what has happened in the past that mostly the command of the land forces has always been elevated to become the chief of defense forces. Now, I will speak a little bit about the two appointments, the first two. That is Wilson Mbadi, who is now the CDF, that has replaced, what's his name? Forgotten the former. David Muhoozi, who is now in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, as well as Peter Eleru. Now, you should understand, Wilson Mbadi comes from a place called Kasese, where the Mumbele lived. And the Mumbele, you remember very well the events that happened a couple of years ago, the genocide that took place on the people of Kasese that were murdered. That is where this gentleman called Wilson Mbadi comes from. His king, Charles Wezre Mumbere, is under house arrest. He was murdered. Guess by who? It brings me to the deputy commander, Lieutenant General Peter Eleru. He commanded the murder of Wilson Mbadi's people in Kasese. So that is why I've told you when I'm beginning this episode that these changes are just reshuffles for people not to have those, kind of feelings or thoughts of trying to unsettle the dictator. So what we see now is that Peter Eleru is the deputy, whereas Mbadi is the CDF. But Mbadi's people that were murdered and killed, they were killed by who? His deputy, called Peter Eleru. Now, Wilson Mbadi, of course, has no power. Being an army commander in the country, you have no power at all. You cannot even sell a single bullet. Nothing. You cannot even order a single army to go and attack a particular place or advise or anything. No. These are just symbolic positions that are there to reward Museveni's sycophants and the so-called loyal people. The ones who sing the best praises to him, they are rewarded with such positions in either in the UPDF, police, or ministries. But they are not put there to work. The only people that are put in these institutions to work are people who are in the deep state and are people of his close family, starting with the third person on the list, known as Muhoozi Kayine Lugaba, the gentleman you see there. The gentleman Muhoozi Kayine Lugaba, for me, there is this issue that people say that, oh, Muhoozi project. Yes, Muhoozi project is, it can be right or wrong depending on what you believe. Now, Muhoozi has been put as the leader or the commander of the land forces. The reason as to why Muhoozi has been put in that position is to prepare him to become the CDF. For him to become CDF, it might happen either this year, before the end of this year, or the beginning of next year. That is if they are still in government. That's the idea. And that is why you have seen him getting very quickly in promotions, very quickly is going through promotions as quickly as possible, getting promoted. Whereas people who have fought and been there for a long time, they have not been promoted. Now, Muhoozi, when he becomes the leader of the army, that is going to be very interesting. Because there is this narrative of Muhoozi project that we need to all understand. It is a project that people say that Museveni is grooming his son to be the next president. Now, legally speaking, under what circumstances can Muhoozi become the president of Uganda? Number one, through an election, right? That he can become. Number two, if at all Muhoozi is vice president, and if the president either dies or he resigns or he's incapacitated, then as a vice president of Uganda, Muhoozi becomes automatically the president. That is also a legal way of him becoming the president. Now, in the event that there is no vice president or the vice president is also incapacitated, the Speaker of the House, I think, takes over. So Muhoozi can become the Speaker of the House. Now, unfortunately for Muhoozi, he cannot be vice president because, number one, he has no political position, or he cannot be speaker because he has no political position in any constituency. Now, the day we shall see Muhoozi leaving the military and then getting into elective politics and getting a constituency, maybe Museveni can create a constituency today or tomorrow and then, tells him to go and run in that constituency and then makes him a vice president. That can also happen. Now, if that doesn't happen, those are all long shots, right? Those are all, I'm putting all the possibilities on the table. Now, Muhoozi can only win in his home village town because that is where they know him and they would only elect him because of his father. Now, this is what is interesting about the Muhoozi project. Those are the only legal circumstances under which the gentleman can become president. Now, the issue of him going into an election, that one is a non-starter because he is the most unpopular person in the country because of what he has done. Now, for Muhoozi as a person, who would have chosen to be completely different from his father, and trust me, for Ugandans being very forgiving people, they would have looked at him to unseat his father. And people would have supported him. But unfortunately, as we speak today, it is not even the right time for him to come out because we already have a liberator in the names of His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. So if Muhoozi is to be whatever, to go and use his popularity, he should wait. Now, and it looks like Muhoozi is not a person who is really interested in becoming popular with the masses. He's not a person who is really interested, with the exception of hiring a few unemployed people that he has been using to promote his project. Nothing that really stands out to show that he is really so much into getting popular, and as being popular, he can really run and get office. Now, if at all you are unpopular, if at all you have no constituency, if at all you're not the vice president as speaker, what do? Number 3, or number whatever, you can just grab or capture power through a coup, number 1, or you can just through a coup. That is the only way. Now, this is what we see. If Muhoozi is made the CDF, because being the command of the land forces, I don't see, from my own analytical point of view, that Museveni is going to tell Muhoozi to resign from politics and come and serve. If that happens, then Muhoozi project will be in full swing. But if we see Museveni getting Muhoozi and making him the army commander, whatever, the CDF, what that means is that is going to be Muhoozi's project, Muhoozi's place, until Museveni is kicked out of power. Or until, like for the next, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 years, maybe 5 years. And I'm going to explain why. What these people are worried about is not merely continuity of what they have done to Uganda. Because they know if they leave power, everything they have looted, stolen, and done, they will be accountable. And they might lose all the wealth they have accumulated. Now, for Museveni and his first family and his cabal of sycophants, their first rule, number 1, is how do we protect ourselves, our loot, as well as our family? Because for them, the idea is, if we do not have anyone strong, or if we do not have anyone to hold the military might get haywire, and someone within the military might take us over. A commander can take us over. Or someone within any of these security forces that is not on our side can easily take us over. That is why you see, being an army commander in Uganda, it is one of the most risky jobs in the country. You never know, you might be purged anytime. Being the commander of SFC is one of the most difficult jobs. You might end up in prison. Not only the international community is looking at you because these people are using you to commit crimes, but also the people within the government, the people within Museveni see you as a threat. They cannot trust you because they always have to keep one eye open and the other one on the lookout. Because they know that if they do not have control of the military, anything can happen. Now, this is because these people have been crazy. They built a military around a particular individual, around one person. This is what we complain about dictatorships, that they do not want to build strong institutions. Because by building strong institutions, that undermines their dictatorships. In that, they can easily be thrown out of power. They can be easily held accountable when you have strong institutions. So what do? Build weak institutions and make sure that your son or your uncle, or whatever, anyone, are within these institutions to man and manage them. People from your tribe are within these institutions. That is what they do. And that is why you see nepotism, tribalism, and all these other things, sectarianism, are never ending in Uganda. Now, this is the issue. The role of Muhoozi is not to become president. According to, and I will change my position if at all the so-called, if at all circumstances change, or if at all there is another movement. But from my own analysis, according to these changes, what Museveni is prompting Muhoozi to do is to, number one, be the head of the military, or be the CDF. By being the CDF, they have control over the guns, they have control over the entire military establishment and things of that sort. And by being in control of all that, they can, even if a revolution happens, or even if they are thrown out of power, they can easily buy themselves time whenever they are within the military. Because anything that is going to happen, or anything that happens, like, for example, within the military, it can be very, very dangerous and deadly to them, because they have to keep the army in check, because there are so many factions within the army. And he cannot trust anyone with the army. Whereas he has so many spies, blah, 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 blah. But he knows even if he leaves power, this brings me to a very important point, that Muhoozi is not going to be president anytime soon. What they are preparing Muhoozi for is to become the head of the military, give him a huge budget, because the military, or the UPDF, or security, is the one that takes the biggest budget in the country. The UPDF and all these guys, they are the ones that take the biggest budget. So what they are going to do is they want Muhoozi to be the CDF, give him a very big budget, and then Muhoozi will use that budget to hold control and further entrench and create a much deeper state within the country. Now that is all dependent, because we are judging Muhoozi on his father's experience. Now Muhoozi is a completely different ball game. He's this kind of person that you can say, oh, daddy told me to do so. He's so much of a daddy guy, because there are so many things that we can see. We haven't seen, some type of Muhoozi leadership. It is not there. That this decision was taken by Muhoozi. Museveni himself does not trust his son. He's very patriotic. Like he can't let him out of his sight, or he can't let him do anything without him, stamping it yes, or without him saying, okay, you go and do that and this and that. Now, with the UPDF, this is what they are planning to do. They want Muhoozi to take charge, and then if Museveni is to leave power or to resign in a few, maybe if he's kicked out of power, and the military can have a bargaining point. Like they are using the military, as a bargaining point as well. Unlike if Muhoozi, if he was in the president and then they are overthrown, he would be gone. The military would easily switch. The army commander can easily switch. But if you overthrow Museveni today and kick him out of power, now you have another uphill task with the army commander. Right? Because we all know the roles of army commanders in Africa. We have seen it in Zimbabwe. That gentleman called the General Chiwenga, connived with the Mnangagwa, and they overthrew Mugabe. The same thing happened in Sudan. The military generals, they overthrew Bashir. The same thing happened in Egypt. They overthrew Hosni Mubarak until Fatah al-Sisi took over. Same thing happened in Gaddafi's Libya, Nigeria, Ghana, and all these other countries. The army commander is always very interesting phenomenon to watch. Now, Muhoozi is going to be some sort of a bargaining chip. That him being in control of the army, for example, if Museveni is overthrown, he will be able to sit down and say, look here guys, okay, we agree you have overthrown us, but these are our terms that we would like to live. Whereas we are living, these are our terms. Number one, I want to stay as the army commander for 1 or 2 years. Number two, all our wealth and all this kind of thing should not be touched. We should be immune from prosecution and things of that sort. That is the game they are playing. Now, the other issue is going to be like this. When Museveni decides to leave, for example, if he resigns today and says, okay, I've resigned, I've given up, he will hand over to Jessica Alupo, of which we shall hold elections in the next couple of years. What we see here is this, that leadership or the presidency is most likely to go to northern Uganda if he is to say, for example, this is just my analysis, okay? If he is to say, this is according to what they are planning, because if you look at most of the things, the command of the SFC, the deputy command of the SFC, and all those other things, you can see the command of the deputy command of the SFC, the command of the SFC comes from the north. Deputy commander comes from Ntungamo, that is in the western part of Uganda. Now, this is the issue that they are planning to do. They are saying that, okay, we shall give the presidency to the north and get that support back, but then we keep the army. Whereby, if we are in charge of the army, as per, we are the CDF, we have the biggest budget, we call the shots. If the president from the north refuses to accept our terms, we just overthrow him and be able to install another presidency. To summarize it up, what they are trying to do is they want to control the state from the back without having their main person at the front like Museveni is today. Because if you cut off Museveni's head today, the entire establishment crumbles as a house of cards. So what they are trying to do is they are trying to create a state within a state, whereby they are going to have a deeper state within a smaller state, where they will be having because these are the most important positions in Uganda as a country. These are the most important positions. Whoever controls them, sometimes they control the country. Okay, they control the country. Number one, governor of Bank of Uganda. That is one of the most important positions. Number two, the Chief Justice, because he's the one who swears in any president. Number three, the Executive Director of the Uganda Revenue Authority, because he's the one that collects taxes. You need the money. So the revenue guy collects the money. The governor is the one that stores the money. So you need the keys to the treasury. And within the governorship, you need someone like the PS, the permanent secretary of the governor, that gentleman, Keith Mahakanizi, and all these people. So those are some of the most important ones. Now, from that, the other important position is the army commander, who is the army commander of the country. Very important positions. The other one is the IGP. Those positions, very, very, very important. So the other one is the Chief Justice, because the Chief Justice is the one that legalizes the coup, is the one that legalizes a particular president. He looks the other way. The Chief Justice is the helm. And then maybe you can throw in the speaker somewhere there. You can throw in the speaker. Those are the most important positions. And that is why these most important positions in the country are shared between the northern part of Uganda as well as the western part of Uganda, or as well as Museveni's tribe or Museveni's region where he comes from. So what we are most likely to see is that Museveni is going to hand over the presidency to the north. That's just for analytical purposes. And then they are going to control URA, that is Uganda Revenue Authority, they will control the Bank of Uganda. They will give the Chief Justice to the north, as well as control the army, as well as that militia private army of his, known as the SFC. In summary, to my analysis, for now, Muhoozi project is off. So, in the next episode sometime, I will come and discuss how do we as NUP, how do we as people who are being left out, how do we counter all this? There's a solution. How do we counter all this? I'll bring it up in the next episode. If you guys want to hear my analysis on this issue and how to counter it and all this kind of thing, you can let me know in the comments below, and I'll come here and try to make as part 2 of this particular issue. You can just let me know in the comments on how to counter and what we can do and all this sort of thing, and why it is really not going to be easy for Museveni to pull this thing off in one way or the other, and why it has been delayed in one way or the other as well. Because what we also see is Museveni is likely not to hand over to anyone, but rather just die of natural causes, and the army commander should be ready to presume all powers, suspend the constitution, declare a curfew, declare a state of emergency, and rule by decree for like 3 or 5 years as they prepare for a transition and beat people into submission. How do we prepare for this? Let me know in the comments what you think of my analysis, and we shall be back for another episode. Have a blessed one. Bye-bye.